Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees. Well, you've heard a lot about podcasting. I mean, obviously, you're listening to a podcast right now. But where does all this podcasting really lead? Where does podcast hosting fit into your world? Where does podcast guesting fit into your world? And can you actually make any money and get any clients with this crazy thing we call podcasting? Well, honestly, I don't know. But our guest knows. Please welcome the awesome, the amazing Mr. Tom Schwab from InterviewValet.com.
David, thank you for being here, having me here, and I'm so excited to talk about this. It's something that you and I talk offline with, and I'm happy to talk about it and share it with the world.
Yes. Well, first, do me a favor and tell us the Tom Schwab story. How did you come to do the work that you're doing today with the team at Interview Valet, and what were some interesting pit stops along the way?
You know, everything is evolutionary, not revolutionary, right? So I started out, I was an engineer. My first job out of college was running nuclear power plants. It taught me systems and processes. And I took that, worked at corporate America, Fortune 100 medical device company, worked in operations, then worked in sales. That taught me more the marketing and sales side of it. And I sold that distributorship back, and I had this little sideline business. And I had read a book by two smart guys out of MIT, Brian Halligan and Dharmesh Shah. They went on to form HubSpot. And so I read this and thought, boy, I bet you could use inbound marketing for e-commerce. And so I called them up. They said it should work. We tested it. We became their first e-commerce case study. So we went from a regional player to a national leader, sold it off. And then when I was in my sabbatical phase, I had people say, well, how did you grow the business? And by that time, blogs weren't working, right? This was about 2014. But David, I hypothesized that you could use podcast interviews just the same way to get that know, like, and trust, to tap into other people's audiences. So we started to test it. It worked well. And for the first 3 years, I'd give my elevator pitch and people would say, what's a podcast? Well, about 2019, it really started to take off. It gave us the ability to have the relationships and the system set up. And now we've got a team of 22 in Europe and North America. We've been remote from day one. We've been doing it almost 10 years now, and we're helping thought leaders, nonfiction authors, professional service providers, category designers get heard on targeted podcast interviews, not just for a random interview, but really as a marketing channel. And we'll talk about this, right? This is marketing. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense.
Ooh, I like that. That's a writer downer. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. I want to go back to one of the last things you said a moment ago, because you are brilliant at doing this yourself. You said category designers. So this is a great for professional service firm owners, boutique consulting firm owners, nonfiction business book authors, category designers. Number one, what's a category designer? And number two, how have you redefined the category that your firm is in?
Let me tell you a story about one of our clients. And I learned so much from our clients, a gentleman by the name of Christopher Lockhead. He wrote a book called Play Bigger: How Pirates, Dreamers, and Innovators Create and Dominate Markets. And the idea is you don't want to be one of millions. You want to figure out what your niche is, what your point of view is. And I'll never forget, Christopher reached out to us early on. He wanted us to promote his book on podcasts. And he asked me, he's like, sounds to me like what you're doing at Interview Valet is a new category. And I said, well, not really, right? It's a little bit of marketing. It's a little bit of PR. It's a little bit of matchmaking. And I remember him asking, why don't you want to dominate and own this category? And I said, it's going to be too much work trying to teach the market. And he's like, then you will forever be fighting for crumbs. And he gave me some examples. I read the book. The next week, I was a fan of category design. And let's go back to that example that I used before, right? HubSpot. What is HubSpot known for? They are the category king of inbound marketing. No one knew what inbound marketing was before they started to talk about it. And it's the same way for us. People would go, oh, you're a podcast booker. No, that's an activity, right? Oh, you do podcast guesting. No, that's an activity. What we do is podcast interview marketing, right? Using it almost like guest blogging, but using it as a powerful marketing channel. So that's one of the things a lot of our clients come to us for, is because they have a different point of view. They have something that needs to be explained, right? If you're ISP, your sales proposition is, I'm a little bit cheaper than the next guy. My service is not as bad as the next person, right? You don't need to explain that. That can be done in a Facebook ad, and it's a race to the bottom. But if you're trying to explain, this is the problem I see in the world, right? Our problem is that it's a noisy world. Not everybody is listening, right? And yelling louder isn't getting heard. Our point of view is that instead of yelling louder, why don't you get in on the conversation, right? Our point of view is that you are not one funnel away. You're not one click away. You're one conversation away. And those things take time, take an extended conversation to explain. And so for category designers there, that's why podcast interviews can be so powerful, telling that story on other people's audiences.
Yes. Now, I want to go into a little bit of the interview valet magic, because obviously, if you were just yet another podcast booking firm, they'd be like, okay, David, so you have some books, and we'll make a pitch for you, and off you go. You go on the podcast and you talk and you answer the host's questions, and good luck to you. We'll get you as many of those as possible. There's an entire strategy. So when you say podcast interview marketing, you're advising your clients and you're setting them up and training them what to do before the interview recording, what to do during the interview recording, and what to do after the interview recording to maximize the marketing power of every single show that they will ever appear on. Could you give us a little bit of that before and during and after interview valet magic formula?
You nail it, because it's not just more activity, right? It's like public speaking. Just going out and talking to more trees doesn't grow the business, right? So it starts with the right audience. You can't say enough of the right things to the wrong people. And when we started a decade ago, it was podcast guessing. There wasn't a whole lot of data. Now, there are so many licensed database that we get. We can find lookalike audiences. So if you say, I want to be on IdeaCast by Harvard Business Review, right? I can tell you everybody that goes to that website, everybody that subscribes to it, what are they podcasts they listen to? We can look at your own website and say, everybody that goes to your website right now, these are the podcasts they listen to, right? Talk about lookalike audiences. We're looking at the data because ultimately, you want the biggest impact from every podcast interview. And that's impacting the people that hear it, the search engines that are looking at it, and even the large language models. So we're doing all of that beforehand to make sure it's the right interview, not just another interview. And we'll prep you for every interview. Had a boss in the Navy that said, only kids and clowns like surprises. Which one do you take me for? We don't work with either. So we prepare you for every interview. And then on the interview, so often I see people just have a nice discussion, right? That was entertaining. But what's the point? We've done testing over the decade, some of it with HubSpot there, on how to move people from being a passive listener to an active visitor to an engaged lead, right? You should always send them to one dedicated page. This way, it's got evergreen content, has an evergreen place to go. It's also how you can attribute the traffic. You should give them 3 ways to say yes, right? Everybody says 1 call to action. Well, we've tested it. Give them 3 ways, right? Small yes, medium yes, and a heck yes, right? And then even after the podcast, so many people lose the opportunity to repurpose that, to promote it. You can get a month's worth of content from every interview, and it doesn't take any more of your time. So all of those things, you don't want to just do more interviews. You want to get more from every interview. The goal is not more interviews. It's more profits from every interview.
We interrupt this interview with an important announcement. If you're committed to better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees, get over to doitselling.com right now and grab a copy of my new book. That's the deal, kids. Grab a copy of the new book and then get all the bonuses, companion tools, trainings, and downloads at doitselling.com. Buy the book, get the bonuses. Buy the book, get the bonuses. Buy the book, get the bonuses. That's how it works. I'll see you over there.
It's funny when you and I just did this before we turned on the microphones. So we've done 400 plus episodes. I ask every guest, hey, at the end, what is going to be, what would you like in the business, we call it call to action, right? CTA. Yeah. I said, basically, how would you like people to connect with you? What resources do you have? What gifts would you like to give them? And what breaks my heart, because I'm not in this business, I'm not in the educating guests business. They go, oh, just go to our main website, abc.com, or find me on LinkedIn. Guess how many people are going to listen to your podcast interview, no matter how brilliant, insightful, amazing, and fantastic you are. A few of them might click over to abc.com because it'll be in the show notes, but they're on your homepage. There's no way to capture that particular listener from that particular show because they're just cruising around, probably spend 5 or 10 seconds on there. If you have a blog and you get lucky, they might read your blog. They probably won't. And then connect with me on LinkedIn. Okay, great. So I'm on LinkedIn. I see Tom Schwab. I click on connect, or I send him a short note. Hey, I heard him on, hey, Tom, I heard you on David's show. Nice job. It's like, okay, what am I going to do with an extra LinkedIn connection? So I see so much wasted opportunity. Sorry, 400 previous guests. I see so much wasted opportunity, so I would say 50% of my guests, because we get really great guests, 50% of my guests have a little bit of marketing savvy, not to the extent that you just described, but they have a little bit of marketing savvy. Hey, we have this special report. We have this PDF. We have a free ebook. We've got a download. We have an online free training. Okay, that's better than nothing. But I love this idea of one page, one URL. And by the way, you're going to get Tom's URL here in a couple of minutes. So stay tuned. One page that has the small yes, the medium yes, and the heck yes. Thanks for preserving the rated G rating on this episode, by the way. So let's talk a little bit more. What can we do or say besides giving really smart answers and giving real value and getting people excited about the topic and seeing some possibility for themselves, no matter what, so we have, among all of the podcast guests that I've had on, people that talk about leadership or innovation or corporate strategy or sales or podcasting or online video or all kinds of topics. But what can that expert say or do during the interview that is really hooky or really sticky or that will really drive people to click on those links that are in the show notes?
So I think content is king, but context is God, right? Small g. So if you're giving the same interview over and over, it's just, this is my generic keynote. Nobody cares about that. Figure out who the audience is. So when you start using examples, use examples that would make sense to them. When you talk about problems they have, talk about problems that audience has. Yes. And often we'll tell clients, right? Don't give interview questions, right? Oh, David, here's 10 questions you can ask me. No, let's focus on interview topics. And what's great is because if you do different topics, now you can repurpose that. It doesn't sound like every interview sounds the same.
Yeah.
The other thing is when you're giving them that next step, tie it to what you talked about and make it valuable, right?
Yeah.
Just come to my website to sign up for my email list or to sign up for my newsletter, right? Nobody wants another newsletter. Make it something that is a quick win for them, right? And that's why we always say, meet people where they are. If they hear you and it's like, oh, this is interesting, but I don't have time to read the book and I've got other priorities right now. Well, give them a quick win. At least it gets them there. You can retarget or they've got something. You know, some people make decisions slower. So it could be a book. It could be a webinar. It could be case studies.
Yeah.
And for heaven's sake, if someone listens to you and they're like, oh, this is the answer to prayer, don't slow them down in a funnel, right? This idea of big ticket sales and all the rest of this, I think most of it is BS. And you know, think about it. Whales don't click and big fish don't swim through funnels. They want to talk with someone. So let them do it. Make it easy for them to engage with you.
That is such a huge, huge point. So if y'all are listening to this, the years 2024, 2025, 2026 probably, because this, I know this will be one of our best interviews, by the way, one of the most popular and most downloaded. That is so important that big fish do not swim through funnels. You know, I see a lot, especially in the expert services world, right? The coaches, the consultants, the speakers, the trainers, the folks that are running consulting firms, training companies. They are so misled that imagine like a $5 million or $10 million boutique consulting firm. They sign up, you know, they're doing Ryan Dice, they're doing whatever. And it's like all of the, and by the way, Ryan's a great guy. He's a tremendous human being. People jump out of the professional services lane and they want to become internet marketers. And internet marketers works really great for B2C. It also works really great for B to solo B. So if you're after an individual person or someone who just retired from corporate America, and I want to be a life coach. Okay, great. You will get that guy in your funnel. If you're after corporate CEOs, if you're after speaking gigs at large conferences and associations, if you want to have corporate coaching contracts or corporate training deals, those people, those chief learning officers, those VPs, those C-suite people, they don't do funnels. I'm so glad you said that. And this is one of my manifesto ranting points, that everyone wants to make professional services sellers into internet marketers, and it does not work. What does work is thought leadership activity like podcast interview marketing. That's what works, because then they get exposed to your expertise. And if you do it the right way, the way that Tom's going to recommend and Tom is going to model here in a moment, you are going to give them one singular place to go that has a warm, hot, and ready to go, right? The three levels of interest, the three levels of getting in there. My friend Terry Brock, who's a professional speaker, he's in the Speaker Hall of Fame, and he told me this advice 10 years ago. He says, David, you got to remember, your prospects are smart. They know there's stuff for sale. They know that you have a company. They know that you have services. Let them raise their hand to the level that they want to raise their hand. You don't need to cram anything down anyone's throat. And you certainly don't want, Tom, the way you said, you don't want to slow down the process when someone is ready to have a conversation with you today.
Yeah, I think of our mutual friend, Greg Alexander, who talks about that products are sold, services are bought. And you are so spot on. It's like, who are you benchmarking after? If you're a professional services coach, consultant, doing the higher level stuff, do you see Ernst & Young, Bain, all the big consulting firms? Do you see them running Facebook ads and funnels? Do they get all of their 6 and 7-figure consulting gigs from Facebook ads and masterclasses? No. Well, why do you think you would? Right?
Yeah.
If it works so well, Boeing and Airbus would be selling airplanes off of Facebook ads and funnels. It just doesn't scale.
That's right. Exactly. Because, the CEO of American Airlines, he's not clicking on Facebook ads and going through funnels to buy his next batch of airplanes. Well, let's talk about something that you brought up that I had never even heard of. I don't know if I'm living in a cave or what's going on, but you obviously go way back with the HubSpot folks. And you mentioned something before we turn on the microphones, which sounds really incredibly exciting, called LMO. Tom, give us the download on the whole world, the emerging world of what an LMO is and what it means for interview valet clients.
Yeah. So there's 3 different people you're speaking to, right? You want to speak and get heard by your clients, prospective clients. You want to speak and get heard by the search engines, and that's SEO. But you know who can be your best referral partner ever? ChatGPT and all of those. Because think about it. People are using that as a search engine. They'll say, what are the best marketing consultants for my business? And you know what? David's name comes up first. And it'll tell you, this is why. Here's the positives. Here's the negatives. ChatGPT can be your best referral source, and it's called LMO, language machine optimization, right? So really, what are you doing so that ChatGPT and all the rest of them know who you are? And it's interesting because SEO, there were people that were doing that. And so we could sort of like get the background on that, or every now and then someone would sneak something out. But for the large language models, we have to figure out from afar what the machine is doing. And there's 2 things that have been really identified as being important to them. The first one is sentiment, right? Are people talking positively about you, neutrally, or negative? So you can think about that with reviews, right? But it's also that entire sentiment out there. And they're not looking for keywords anymore, right? They're looking for the text, the sentiment of everything. So what are people saying about you? And then the second one is share of voice. So how big of a share of voice do you have for that topic, right? And that comes back to category design. If you want to get share of voice on marketing, that's going to be pretty tough, right? It's huge. But if you want to get it for do it marketing or podcast interview marketing, and with that, share of voice is a lot of things. How much they talked about you on social media, how much content is out there. Is it real content or is it AI generated? And the thing is with interviews, think about this, David. Now it's about a half hour here. All of the sentiment is positive, right? So boom, that's there. If we were to transcribe this is probably 5 or 6 blogs that we just did in a half hour. Boom, that's a lot of content.
Yeah.
Share a voice. Not only am I saying it, but there's a thought leader, David, who is saying it too. So all of these things is an easy human way where people know it's real, SEO knows it's real, and the large language models. So it's something that I think is going to be huge in this next couple of years as SEO drives off and LMO takes off. And I tell you what, we're doing some studies here at our company. I've always been the chief evangelist officer. We've got 5 people on the leadership team now that were like, yeah, they need to get out there and start talking about podcast interview marketing from their viewpoint so they can get a bigger share of the voice.
That is so interesting. So I'm guessing that all of these different AI tools, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or Copilot, initially everything was text, right? So they're vacuuming up all the text from the internet and every book that was ever written and so forth. And so written content was level 1. What you're saying is, you know what? Audio content is next. They're going to be listening to YouTube videos. They're going to be listening to podcasts. They're going to be listening to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all the different places that podcasts are published and broadcast. And I'm guessing that before too long, they're going to be watching video as well. And so the video, not just the audio on the video, but like, okay, who's got a cooking show that features green peppers? We might never say the word green pepper, but there's a visual on the screen for 5 minutes about a green pepper. Boom, that's going into the models as well. So is that correct, that we're starting to go into kind of this 3-dimensional text plus audio plus video all being sucked into these large models?
I think we're already there. So
really?
I think they're already listening. They're already watching. If you don't believe it, just mention something crazy around your computer or around an Alexa device or an iPhone. All of a sudden, you start to see ads for it.
Right.
You didn't type in a keyword. They're listening there. The other thing, too, is that even on social media, you notice now that if it's collaborative content, it does better. So if there's a picture of you and I together, it does much better than if I just put a picture of myself. And with facial recognition, they know who we are. We don't have to tag each other. Yeah. The other thing they're even looking at is that, with each photo, there's all that information, the meta information that goes with it. So they can look at it really quickly and say, David and Tom were not in front of the Eiffel Tower. That picture of the Eiffel Tower is somewhere else. Yeah. This is photoshopped. So instantly they can say that's fake.
Yeah.
And so they could discount that. When we're talking here, as they're listening to us, as they're watching us, they know it's real. They know it's human.
Yeah.
No AI is going to make as many grammatical errors as I do, right? Unless AI is from Chicago, they're not going to drop the G on words. Even, you can sort of tell a video when it's AI. I was on a call with someone the other day and they adjusted their shirt. Boom. No AI is going to adjust their shirt or adjust their collar while they're talking. So there's these cues that I think people are looking for and listening for. And also LMO is listening for. Search engine optimization, this is 2024. There's somebody listening to this, I think, in 2025 or 2026 that could be laughing every time we say SEO.
Yes. Well, I've seen that. I've heard several times now already that SEO is dead. I mean, SEO is done. SEO is over. Thanks for playing. Because even so, who was I talking about with this? It was somebody, AI would never pause and go, I'm having a brain fart right now, but I'm having a brain fart right now. It's okay. But they were saying that SEO is dead, SEO is over, because even if you do a Google search, now at the top of Google is that AI summary. And he says so many people now are just going to the AI summary and going, oh, okay, got it. Let's say you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to be on the first page of Google, legit, like real, backlinks, great content, amazing. No one's even scrolling down now. So you're on the first page of Google, you're number 2 or number 3. First, we get the AI summary. Then we see the ads. The first organic result is not even on the main screen. You got to scroll down to see it. So when we say SEO is dead, my friends, SEO is dead. Thank you, 2026. I think 2023 is looking for its SEO. They'd like it back, please. But you're right. I mean, we have to start being conversant in these new modalities with these new methods in these new media formats, meaning audio, video, human-generated content, but that is optimized for the AI world.
And you think about it, it's like we can't hack the large language models. We can't just say keywords and they're going to pick it up. The best thing we can do is when we create the content to let them listen in. So you and I could be having the same conversation, right? But if it's not recorded, will they ever find it? And, if it's not put out there. So it's almost like with your reputation, right? People are going to say what they're going to say, right? And you always want to make sure that it is as positive as possible, right? because we all live and die by our reputation, but you also want to seed it. You want to make sure that there's good stuff on your website, that you're talking positively, right? And so I think that podcast interviews and podcasts can be a great way to seed this content, because it's going to get heard. It's going to get cut up. It's going to be seen different places. That whole repurposing is another thing that's really, really powerful. We tell our clients, just don't do more interviews. Do more with every interview.
Wait. We're not just going to listen to this episode. There are downloads, there are resources, there are links, there are bonuses waiting for you on this episode's page when you go over to doitmarketing.com/podcast. That's right, doitmarketing.com/podcast. Grab the notes right under this episode. See you over there.
So as we're landing the plane, I want to just touch on that because you mentioned it a couple of times. What are some of your favorite repurposing platforms to chop up things like audio content, transcripts, etc.?
Yeah, any of the large language models really work well, right? Take the transcript, put it in there, and say, what are the best quotes? What are the images in there? There's different ones. Opus is a great one to cut it up. It'll automatically put the subtitles in there. There's another one, and I apologize, I can't think of the name of it. I'll get it to you so you can put it in the show notes. You can take text and put B-roll footage over it, or you could take our audio and put B-roll footage. Do people really want to look at me the entire time that I'm talking, a talking head? No, but if there's some interesting B-roll footage, that's engaging. People stop to see babies and puppies. They don't stop and look at me. So those are very, very powerful there. And then I think also just the analytics, right? I think so many people throw stuff at the wall and never looking for what sticks. So as you post things, you'll see what engages the best, and double down on what works and stop doing what doesn't, right? If they love quote images, your audience, give them more quote images. If they love reels, do that. It doesn't have to be everything, just what works.
Yes. Amen. Oh my goodness. Such great advice. Well, I know that people are going to want to get connected and stay connected to more Tom Schwab brilliance. Here it comes, folks. This is the meta moment. I hope you're ready. You want to find out how the podcast interview marketing guru does podcast interview marketing. That was the question, right? That was the real question. It wasn't a role play. And I end most of my interviews with, Tom, where can we send people? What would you like in the show notes where people can find out more about you and your amazing work? Tom, take it away.
So you're seeing behind the curtain here. This is how it works. Send them to one place, right? So go to interviewwithav.com/do-it, right? That's a dedicated page. So if you hit that page, I know you came from David's show. That's how you attribute a podcast. When you get to that page, you're going to find three things, right? The small yes, the medium yes, the heck yes. The small yes is a personal assessment, 10 questions. Will podcast interview marketing work for you? It'll bring you a lot of value in a little bit of time. The medium yes. I wrote a book. It's called Podcast Guest Profits, How to Grow Your Business with the Targeted Interview Strategy. You can buy it on Amazon, or if you want a free copy, if you're in the States, I'll mail it to you. If you're outside there, I'll email it to you. That's there. That's the medium yes. And then that heck yes is if you listen to this and you'd want to learn more, right? If you want to connect with me on social media or grab a time on my calendar, that will be there too. So tell them where to go, tell them what they will find there, then remind them where to go again. So just go back to interviewvalet.com/do-it. If for no other reason, just go to that page, check it out, do the same thing. It works. We've tested it for a decade.
Totally amazing. Well, Tom Schwab, it is a pleasure and a privilege. We go way back, by the way. So, unlike some of these shows where, please welcome my good friend who I met 2 minutes before we turned on the cameras. You and I have been connected for 10 plus years, and you are truly one of the good guys in the business, and people should totally check out all of the goodies at interviewvalet.com/do it. That link will also be in the show notes directly under this episode at thesellingshow.com. Tom, you're awesome. You're amazing. I appreciate you. Thank you for being on with us.
Thank you, David.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.